Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Shay coming back at y'all with another episode of the Emmaus proposition. Man, I hope everybody's doing well. Everything's still cracking over here, man. God is good. He's been blessing us, so I can't really complain, man. But I've been praying for y'all, thinking about y'all. There's some folks on here where it does like a pop up on the people that subscribe, and so like I've been praying for those folks, even the folks I don't know, man. Just like saying to pray over your life. But sometimes a lot of those numbers are just invisible numbers, man. So been praying for y'all. If y'all listen to this over on the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, man, I've been praying for y'all, man, that God is blessing you, that He's making His face shine on you. Really, I've been praying for y'all's participation with me as we spread this message out, man. We just want to glorify Christ in every way, man. So your listens as you listen to this podcast, as you interact with me, sending me messages and giving me thumbs up and all that kind of stuff, man, all that helps, man, to the glory of God. That's helping to advance the kingdom. So I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Hope everybody's doing good. So y'all can see by the title of this podcast, man, I'm gonna get like really deep into it. And because this company is so big, we'll see how much trouble it gets me into. Hopefully none, man. This joint is small, so I'm sure nobody's really listening. But yeah, as you can see from the title, it's my position, man. Disney hates Jesus. I really think it does. I don't think Disney wants anything to do with righteousness or holiness or godliness or anything like that. I think it honestly could care less, and not only could it care less, but it's trying to actively move away from it. So when we grew up watching Disney movies, right? I'm a boy. I didn't watch a whole lot of the princess movies. I mean, I had little cousins, and they were little girls, and so I was familiar with like the Cinderellas and the Snow Whites, and that stuff predates me, man. I want to say Snow White was 40s, I think, somewhere in there. But it was birthed in a time when there was honesty and decency, and there was the purity of children. Like you would do everything you could to not victimize children in your art, and there was a nobility about that. Like you could count on, like, no matter how grave the situation got, you were not going to visit whatever calamity upon children. You're going to keep their innocence protected. And Disney has done everything it can, and I'm being honest, I think it's done everything within its power to move itself away from anything that resembles godliness or righteousness or innocence or anything like that. And so we're going to talk about some of that stuff, man. And because Disney is so big and it hits so many different entertainment markets, man, I'm gonna try to dive into mostly the ones that I know about. There's some of the ones that I just don't watch anymore, man. Like, I don't watch Freeform. Freeform is owned by ABC. ABC is owned by Disney, and so essentially it's Disney putting out material that you see on Freeform. And I'll start there, man. Like I watch. We don't watch a lot of shows. We see the stuff that's coming out, and we kind of gauge our interest in watching some of that stuff based on like trailers and some of the plots that they put out on what the show is about and all that kind of stuff, right? And so we've just kind of learned the stuff that comes out on Freeform, like they have a particular agenda that they want to push, by their words, a new kind of family. And what they mean by that is everything except the nuclear family. That's what they're interested in providing with their company. And so That would be one way where, some of these shows come out on Freeform and the kids have two moms and it's a prominent storyline. They're exploring their sexuality. Matter of fact, they're not even exploring their sexuality. Their alternative sexuality is just a given, and it's just part of the nature and makeup of the show. Like, that is the standard. And so they just have stuff going on those shows and on that channel that my family, for me and my house, we just don't participate in, right? So that's one. We get like getting into like the major media that we consume in my house. Like, we're big on superhero shows, like sci-fi, fantasy, superhero. That's kind of our jam, right? And I think I've talked about this before. We try to watch comedies, and it's tough because comedies just have, for some reason, lewd is funny right now. Like, in order for a comedy to be a comedy, it has to have lewdness, and we're just like, you can be funny without being lewd. Like, I get like a lot of my comedy that I grew up on. You got the Eddie Murphy Raw, you got Eddie Murphy Delirious, you got Red Fox, Richard Pryor. Like, you go back and watch those guys, Martin Lawrence, and they were lewd in their comments, right? They were lewd in their speech. But there's a difference with being lewd in your speech and being lewd visually. And some of these shows, they have bypassed just talking about stuff to actually showing stuff. And I think there's a huge difference between the two, right? And so we come up on, let's say, Marvel, and it's interesting because Marvel has been making movies well before Disney. Disney acquires Marvel probably about, I want to say, like 20 years ago. I don't know the date right offhand, and I'm too lazy to look it up, y'all. But somewhere around like 20 years ago, right? Marvel takes over Disney, and you start to see like this shift in who Disney is, what their values are, and what they start to push upon their market and their customers. And you have, for instance, Captain America was one of the first Marvel movies, right? And you had Captain America, and in the first Captain America movie, he was like this wholesome guy I want to say he's out of Brooklyn, New York, and had a heart of valor and wants to do all this good stuff for his country, and is holding to like at least a theistic worldview. You know what I mean? That has some honor and nobility around it. So I would say he probably, in his character in the early Captain America movies, had a belief in God. And as the subsequent movies come along, you start to see him go from like this red, white, and blue to, in the later movies, he's wearing like pure black. And you see his attitude change. Like, you see some of that nobility. He's not as noble as he once was. Now he's living in these shades of gray. He's not operating with the same moral and value system as he once was. And I think it's a picture of kind of Disney and what they've done to their wholesome characters. Like, they've moved their wholesome characters away from like nobility and, like I said, wholesomeness and rightness, if you will, to moving into shades of gray. You also see that with some of the Disney movies, right? Like I mentioned, like Snow White, Cinderella, all those ladies over there, right? All the princess ladies. And you have some of the stuff that came out that it feels like the magic changed almost. And so we watched Princess and the Frog when that came out, and my daughter, she was asking us the other day, she was like, what's the difference between, because she was noticing a difference. She's like, what's the difference? What is it that there's a difference between the early Disney princesses and the magic they participated in with like these later Disney princesses and the magic they're participating in particular, like the Princess and the Frog, because the Princess and the Frog takes place in New Orleans. And so there's their magic is not like a fantasy magic. It's like voodoo type magic. And, she asked me like, what's the difference? And I'm like, oh, snap. I honestly don't know. Like I can't put my finger on it. And so we invited my wife into the conversation, and she was like, there's something darker because it's more real. Like they're tapping into something that's more real. They've lost some of the fantasy realm of make believe, and they're moving into stuff that is actual. Like there's actual practitioners of voodoo, and so there's a darker spirit behind it. And I'm like, yo, that sounds about right. Because I think in a lot of ways Disney is moving toward I want to say that they're wanting to be more relevant to the times as opposed to just letting innocence be innocence. My kids watch this show on Disney called The Lion Guard, and in The Lion Guard, so if you remember from The Lion King, you have Mufasa. And that storyline, it starts with Mufasa, it goes to Simba, and then Simba has kids, and he names his son Kion. Kion goes on to form this band of friends, and they call themselves the Lion Guard. But instead of the cartoon remaining for children, like they allow the characters to grow up, and the themes become more and more dark. And so not processing that the kids aren't going to continue to watch this as they grow up. Like it's a cartoon that they grow out of, but now you have this cartoon that little kids are watching that has this darker theme to it. And it almost feels purposeful that they have these little kids watching these dark themes. Like I was watching one the other day. I just so happened to pass by when the kids were watching it. And, it was showing how Scar got his scar. And essentially, Scar gets his infamous scar from the Lion King. He gets his scar because a snake bites him, and like the snake's venom essentially imbues this evil into him, and that's when he becomes like the raging maniac you see in the Lion King. And so in the cartoon, Scar takes that same serpent and bites Kion's face. Simba's son, and that evil is now injecting Kion. And so where you had like this innocence and this band of basically like lion cubs and all the other animals that they are, they're banding together to kind of help defend the Pride Lands and all this other kind of stuff, and it's cute and it's fun, and they're kind of bumbling. The enemies are kind of like bumbling a little bit, so it's cutesy. But now you have this dark theme where the hero is now tainted with evil, and he has to now wrestle with like this evil within him. And this is a dark theme for like 4 or 5-year-olds. You know what I'm saying? Like it's gone are the days when innocence is protected. It feels like Disney is trying to transition people away from innocence into something that's more like shades of gray, into more like unholy, unrighteous living. Where it used to be like their characters were so innocent that there was a clear distinction between good and evil. So you had like, was it like Snow White? Snow White, she grows up out in the forest with a fairy god, the 3 fairy god mothers, and they're doing everything for her. And she's so innocent and so naive that she actually invites the witch into her home, so innocent that like birds are flying on her hands, and she's singing songs to them, and they go into like this whole chorus, and the whole forest is like getting it popping out in the forest. Like she's leading the underground club scene out in the forest. But it's because of her innocence. You know what I'm saying? And then, so when she invites the witch in, like she's unbeknownst, like she's so innocent. Like why would she even think to consider? And you look at some of the Disney movies now with some of the princesses, like you take, like Frozen, the second Frozen. Sorry, we could take the first Frozen. The first Frozen, the sister that's supposed to be like, they're the good guys. She's wrestling with the fact that she's actually one of the destroyer. And then the second one comes along, and it's a similar theme. It's gotten darker, and even Olaf, the sunny, cheerful Olaf that, Olaf was my favorite character in the first Frozen, right? Like he was just, he was the man. And then the second one, you just had this theme of like darkness where the characters, like the mood, the entire mood changed, and they're chasing after like forest nymphs, and there's all kind of like there was a dark theme to it that I feel like, once again, Disney is kind of transitioning its audience away from innocence and into more darkness, if you will. So, I mean, you got that with the Marvel movies. You got that with the Marvel shows. Like the other day, we didn't want to watch She-Hulk, right? But here at work, a lot of people, like I come into the front gate and there's this one, she's a very sweet lady at the front gate, and her husband, they're really into Marvel stuff. And she always asks me, okay, did you watch the new Marvel stuff yet? Did you watch it? And we get to chatting about it, and it's a way for me to connect with some of the people here at work, right? But with She-Hulk, I was just like, man, I don't even want to watch this, man. Like I was hearing some of the stuff about it and seeing some of the previews, and I'm like, it looks dumb. And especially like after watching, I know I did like an episode on Thor, Love and Thunder, and I was saying how they made a mockery of the Marvel movies, and it was just, I don't know, man. It's like the folks at Marvel don't like their fans. Quite honestly, it's like they would rather a new audience, and so they're doing everything they can to despise the audience they have. The people that have rocked with Stan Lee through the comics and all kind of stuff. It's like the people in charge of Marvel right now, they don't like those fans, and so they're trying to get rid of them to usher in a whole new audience. And so, because I have people here at work that like to talk about it, I tuned in. Me and my wife tuned in, and it's just it's a bunch of anti-cultural themes, if I could put it like that. Like it's not even anti-cultural themes. It's kind of, I feel like Disney is like they're trying to help push a cultural change in the way people see the world, but the people who tune in to their product don't have that worldview. So it's like they're pushing people out to try to bring new people in. And so with She-Hulk, you have this, you have the main character. I forget what her name is right offhand, but she's Hulk's cousin. They get into an accident. He accidentally gets she accidentally gets some of Hulk's blood into her system. But now, instead of the hero's journey that Hulk goes on, she is able to do things like right off the bat. Like she is able to control her Hulk rage outs because, according to her, she has to control her rage every day of her life. And it's this very like feminist movement thing. And, they're kind of making fun of Hulk that he's not able to control his, but she's better than him in almost every way. And she's able to leave this double life. But at the same time, they got her like twerking on screen, and it's just too much, man. Like there's a lot of stuff that Disney is coming out with right now, especially like pushing some of the Marvel stuff, that they're leading themselves away where I believe Stan Lee Like one of his main character was Spider-Man. With Spider-Man, he said, "With great power comes great responsibility." I think that was almost like a biblical theme. And now you have these characters that are just, they're selfish. Like you saw the latest Spider-Man movie. He was super selfish. I want this, but I don't want this, and I want this to work out this way, and I don't care if I destroy reality itself. I want things to work out the way I want them to work out. And it's a self-centered, selfish kind of mind frame that I don't think Spider-Man had, like in the original comics. And so they're changing and they're warping what they're doing with their product, bringing in the new clientele. And so Marvel has been, Marvel is owned by Disney. Disney once again pushing their agenda kind of thing, right? And you have Star Wars. Star Wars, y'all. Oh my goodness. I know I made an episode about Star Wars. And check this out. Star Wars, I started reading the expanded universe in Star Wars, and it was when Disney purchased Star Wars, I was so excited because I'm like, awesome, man. Like the power of Disney's like vision and animation and all this other kind of stuff, man. Star Wars is about to be lit. And I was super excited because where they were in the expanded universe was also how old some of those original characters were in real life. So like the Lando Calrissians, the Princess Leia's, the Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, like all of them were at this phase of life where they could have taken the novels as they were written right there and just transitioned. It would have been a smooth transition right into the storytelling right where they were in this expanded universe. All the history and canon had all been laid out for them, right? Disney came in and said, no, thank you. Swiped the whole thing and said, all of that never happened. It's legends. It never happened. We're going to go our own direction. And they took Star Wars, man, and they injected it with all kind of, with nonsense. And, it's like they don't like Star Wars fans, man. I would say the one movie they came out with that I was like, yeah, this is pretty dope was Rogue One. Rogue One was the best product they came out with. And I want to say, I don't know if that was pre-George Lucas, but I want to say that was right at the beginning of that merger, right? All this latest junk that they're coming out with, it's like they don't like their fans. They don't want them. And so like we watched Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I'm Star Wars, man. Like that's where my nerd bone is. And the stuff that they were doing within that show, it was like they didn't watch the original movies. So they were trying to tie the movies together. Essentially the basis of the show was what was Obi-Wan up to as he's out in the desert. We know he's on Tatooine watching over Luke, but what has he been up to in those years? And the way they put the show together, like they had Obi-Wan meet Leia, but in the movie she was reaching out to him like she never met him, but they had this experience. And you had Obi-Wan had an opportunity to off Darth Vader. Like he wasn't as powerful as he was like later in his later years, you know what I mean? So like he could have offed him off right there and solved a lot of the galaxy's problems, but he allowed him to live. And then by the time you come to the movie, it's almost like Obi-Wan is some kind of punk coward that sends a 19-year-old kid off to do what he should have done years earlier. And so they're not doing a good job, man. And they're injecting all their cultural stuff, man. And the one antagonist lady that they had on the show is the black lady. And I don't care about black people in Star Wars. I love black people in Star Wars. Like Lando was my favorite character, you know what I mean? Until they got their paws on him in these later movies and they turned him into some weird old pervert kind of thing. It was weird, y'all. Y'all got to go back and watch that last Star Wars movie. But I love the fact that there's black folks in Star Wars. Like that's not the problem. But when people touch the dark side because it's pure evil, it warps them. Like it it does something to them physically. All the dark side users, at the very least, their eyes turn like either yellow or red or something like that, right? And they had the main character lady. She was fine. She looked great. She was doing her thing. And I was looking at her. I'm like, how come her face isn't all distorted? How come she's not marked by the dark side? And I get it. Like she was on the fence between the two, but she was a dark side user. You know what I'm saying? So I had issues with that. But once again, they got cultural stuff on. If you didn't like the movie, that means you're a racist. If you didn't like the casting, that means you're a racist. Like there was all this stuff that they don't make sense with their storytelling, and then they blame shift because they didn't do a good job. Then they blame the fans for not liking the decisions they're making with a product that the people love. Like they want to see it go a particular way, but then the company has it. They're like, forget the fans. We're going to do our own thing. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me, man. But once again, it's like, because the stories of like some of the Marvel characters, definitely with the story of Star Wars, right? Because you had this battle of like good and evil, and the more you start to blur those lines, like you just start to blur away. Like, okay, so who's evil, who's good? They're trying to add like complexity and nuance to the characters, but that's not what those movies were for. It was to show people that good triumphs over evil. Now they have it to where you don't know who's good and who's evil, and they can flip whenever they want to. It's not there's no longer a battle between good and evil, and it makes sense because Disney hates Jesus. It does not want good to triumph. It would rather have these shades of gray where people don't know good from evil anymore. And the Bible says, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. And Disney, because it's the entertainment giant, right? Between Disney and Netflix, like they're the entertainment giants. And entertainment has a way to make art become reality. And so as people are watching these shows and they're watching all these shades of gray happen, they're not looking at the world anymore as if good triumphs over evil. Yo, that's the end of the Bible. Jesus wins. Good wins, right? We know the end. But as we watch some of these entertainment spheres and good now, what is good? What is evil? How do we know what's good is not actually evil? How do we know that what's evil is actually good? And Disney is playing around with these themes, and they're blending the distinct lines between good and evil. And I think it's very intentional, man, because I think they hate Jesus. I really do. Even when we go to the park. So a few years back, we went to Disney World, and man, Disney has lost some of its magic. Like even at Disney World, man, like a bunch of the rides were closed, and it cost a crazy amount of money to go in there now. And the roller coasters are all going away. They're getting replaced with like these digital, just kind of motion tronic kind of things, and the characters are walking around, but they're not as friendly as they used to be. You've got some cool stuff there. Like we went, and when we went to Disney World, they had Avatar Land, and so we went kind of in the evening or when the sun was going down, and everything was like lit up and bioluminescent algae. Moana was another one, man. Like the bad guy wasn't actually a bad guy. The mountain that was super upset was just having a bad day because she got something stole from her. As soon as they gave it back, everything was fine. Maui, kind of a bad guy. The crab, kind of a bad guy, but had the coolest song in the show. He was shiny. And you had, I don't know, man, like you have all these themes where Disney is just kind of like, they're not able to help children retain their innocence. They have to like blend them into these shades of gray, and I think it's taking away the innocence of children, quite honestly. But back to Star Wars, or back to Disney World, it was almost not worth it anymore, man. It's not worth it to go. There used to be like you could feel the magic when you went. I remember me and my wife went on our honeymoon. We spent a few days at Disney World, and then we went on a Disney cruise. And y'all, like, going to Disney World, and it was like you could step on stones and they would light up and they would light your path, and everybody was friendly and had a smile. And you go on the cruise and you go to dinner, and the walls start to paint themselves. And Mickey is there as soon as you walk in, and he's hugging you. You're like, hey, Mickey. Hey, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind. Like you're like right there. You're in the zone. And we went this last time a couple years ago. And man, the characters were all out of sorts, man. And all the rides were closed. And you know how you have like characters and they come out and dance and stuff like that. A lot of the characters were they were just living these alternative lifestyles, and it just wasn't great. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience. We went to the food and wine during the Food and Wine Festival. The food wasn't that great. It was kind of salty. Me and my wife have been to the Food and Wine Festival a couple times, and man, it's some of the best food we ever had in our lives. And this last time we went, it was just like, meh, it's all right. So Disney, I don't know, man. The reason why I brought up Disney World, in the way it used to be, there's something to believers that understand, like, because we believe in Jesus, everything we do is from him and through him and to him. So even in our work, we want to propel our best out to everything we do, because it actually, like, it represents Christ better. It's actually it's a reflection on how much God loves his creation. Like when we're happy and fulfilled in our jobs, when we're talking to people and there's a glow about us, and that glow is the Holy Spirit in our lives. And even if we're dressed up as some silly character, like understanding that we're there for the children, we're not there for a paycheck. But we ran into some of the princesses and they were like divas. And I'm like, man, what is going on? Went and had some blue milk at Star Wars Land. Because I'm like, it was the one thing I was waiting for, y'all. Star Wars Land, drinking some blue milk. And y'all, it wasn't even milk. It was like, it was just water. It was so disappointing, man. Like that, Disney is so big, and it's been such a part of American life. And not even just American life, man. Like Disney is known all over the world for putting out quality product and products that are family friendly and that are value promoting. And now you have Disney; they're off in Florida wilding out. You know, you got the governor out there that's talking about how, you know, we want to pass this bill where we think our school systems should not be teaching like sexual education to children under a certain age. And we want to protect our kids. And Disney is like, they're at the forefront of staging like walkouts, and they're telling people not to move to Florida. Their cast members, they're allowing their cast members to walk out, all in defiance of not wanting to teach kids sexual education under a certain age. It's wild. It's wild, man. Like what I have to believe that this is not what Walt Disney would have wanted for his company. I think he probably would have wanted to partner with people like Marvel and Star Wars. Like I think he would have loved that partnership with George Lucas and his vision for what, Star Wars and stuff like that. And even like spawning off new stuff. Like if Star Wars would go toward the High Republic and talk about the honor and nobility and how the Jedi came to be, and all that other kind of stuff, and what I think it would be great. But they're taking the stuff that people love and they're like poo-poo on you, and they're changing it, and then they're wondering why people are so upset, and they go and demonize them online. So I don't understand it. And I think it's people that are in control of where the company's going, that they would rather see some of these alternative lifestyles take center stage. They don't want to see holiness and righteousness and goodness in their movies anymore. They want to be able to redefine what good means. They want a new kind of family. If Disney had a tagline right now, I would say it's the place where magic goes to die. And not magic in a like in a voodoo type of way. I mean that magic when you were like, the little girls would go in and they're like, no, I am a princess. Little boys be like, no, I am a prince. I am Aladdin. You know what I mean? Like I am the prince who still likes to climb walls, but I can still be regal on the inside. And man, they're taking some of this stuff and they're flipping it, and they're giving more screen time to like Cruella de Vil, Maleficent. They took the fairy godmother from Cinderella and put some dude in the role. And I'm just like, dude, what is happening? What is going on here? And I think it's very intentional. I don't think it's by accident at all. I think like I said, this reality has a competing God with Jesus himself. And the Bible calls him the prince of the power of the air. And he is working. And I think it's the same demonic presence, the Satan, the Satan, the serpent, the accuser, the dragon. I think he's the one that's at work to get almost like revenge for Disney having been so pure for so long, for having inspired so many people in a positive way. I think now's the time for his revenge to come through and say, no, the dragon is now actually the good guy. Maleficent, if you remember back in the day from Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent turned into a dragon, right? And so now you give Maleficent a movie, and now she's the good guy. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good. So I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist on here, man, but man, for the far-reaching abilities that Disney has, they are intentionally pushing agenda, and they've said it. Like they were like, we want over half of our product to be these affirming lifestyles. That this is the agenda that they're trying to push toward, and they're Disney, remember, is primarily for children. Yes, they're coming out with a lot of shows that adults like, and people like me that kind of grew up with Disney, like, and grew up with Marvel and Star Wars and some of those old characters. Yeah, we find it enjoyable too, but primarily Disney is supposed to be about children. So what they're pushing is for children. They're pushing for children to enter into these spaces and to lead these lifestyles and to have this mind about them that good is evil and evil is good. And because some adults are not aware, they're not looking for it, they're not spiritually attuned to what's happening, they're just allowing their children to sit in front of garbage, quite honestly. ABC, a new kind of family. And they're letting their kids watch it, man. Meanwhile, you got kids that are not thinking that they're some way of a new alphabet. They're not thinking that. Hopefully y'all know what I mean by that. They're not thinking in that way. But man, after they watch these shows and they see, oh no, this is normal. This is what a normal family is supposed to look like. My family's weird. Oh, I think because me and my friend, we're best friends, that means we're in love with each other and we should go experiment on each other. It's crazy, man. Like it's Looney Tunes out here. And I'm looking forward to the day when Christ comes back and puts all this stuff to shame. I'm looking for the day when, this is like a hope. I don't think this is going to happen. My hope is somebody comes through and says, you know what? We have had enough. We want this back. And they take it back. They take it back for wholesomeness and family values, holiness, goodness, making a fine line again between good and evil. That's the day I'm waiting for. You have stuff like Moon Knight, and was he a good guy or a bad guy? I don't know. Thor, was he a good guy or a bad guy? Like I don't even. He's showing his naked backside. What are we doing? These parents go to take their kids to see this stuff, and now the parents got to go home and explain why their favorite superhero, why his buns are hanging out in the movie. I don't know why I'm saying this stuff. I'm tired, y'all. Anyway, Disney, I think, hates Jesus because what Jesus stands for is there is a judge of all the earth, and he shall do what's right. And I think because people in their souls, and especially like these executives that are in charge of some of these entities, they hate that so much that there's a judge that's going to judge what's right, that they have to change the definition of right and wrong. And if they could just change the definition of right and wrong, it goes all the way back to the garden, y'all. It goes all the way back to the garden. Man able to determine for himself what's right and what's wrong. Even though God says this is what's right and this is what's wrong, they say, no, we need to grasp that knowledge of good and evil for ourselves, and we have to be the ones to determine. And that's what some of these executives have done, and that's what they're trying to do. From their own mouths, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to redefine what's evil and what's good. And it's my hope that they get overthrown. It's my hope that some of this stuff gets captured back, that we can have Star Wars movies and Marvel movies and Disney cartoons and Disneyland and Disney World, Disney cruises that are free from lewdness, licentious, stuff that doesn't honor God. I tried to say a big word, but it didn't come out. I don't know if y'all caught that. I want to be able to take my children to some of these places and not have that stuff shoved down my kids' throat. I don't know. That doesn't sound like I'm asking for much, but maybe it is. Maybe taking part in this life right now, Christian people are going to have to draw a line in the sand and say, we've had enough. And we go create our own content. We go create our own entertainment. And we glorify God in the midst of it because we want holiness to spread. And that's what we give our money toward. It's going to require some folks to be a little bit more creative, man. We need some folks to come up with some sci-fi movies and some good comedies and some good superhero, like Christian superhero movies. And we just need to create our own content, man. Because the way the world is going, it's becoming more evil, and Christians are allowing, even though they're elect, they're allowing themselves to be duped by the evil one. So hopefully this puts this thought in some of y'all's mind. Y'all can go look at it for yourself, man. It's crazy out here in the streets. But nah, I had a good time talking to y'all. I hope everybody's doing good, man. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Keep watching, keep listening. I love y'all. I'm praying for y'all. I really am. And love for y'all to hit me up, and maybe some of y'all coming on and talking through some of these subjects. But yo, hit me up in the email if you need me. Like I said, love y'all, praying for y'all. Until next time, grace and peace.